everyone. Welcome to the Play Choices podcast, a podcast you hear. I'm your host, V.
Hi, I'm the co-host, Lucas.
So we'll spend this episode discussing Bloodbound Book 1, chapters 2 through 4. This episode is not spoiler safe, so if you want to avoid spoilers for Bloodbound Book 1, chapters 1 through 4, please go read those first, and we'll be here for you to come back and listen. Are there any starting notes you want to talk about? I feel like we've been chit-chatting for fucking ever. We've been talking for the past hour before we even started recording.
We'll talk about it more in detail, but these chapters were just very...
They're very narrative heavy, plot heavy to me.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I was making the notes for chapter 2, and I try to have like a bunch of like questions and stuff to ask you so we can have a discussion, but like I literally it's all so straightforward in chapter 2 that I feel like the majority of chapter 2 is just going to be me walking through narration, like what happens, like very little questions.
Oh yeah, even like, and it's kind of crazy because I was hoping for that. Like, I did not want this whole drawn out, like, oh my god, vampires are real, and like I didn't want that. Like, that's so cliche. And the fact that the character got over it very fast and was like, okay, I need to know this, and this. Let's do this. I was like, oh shit, okay, oh.
They did a good job setting up Amy in chapter 1 because in the diamond scene, if you took it to have dinner with Adrian, I remember she was talking about how she just like loves adventure and she like left her hometown and came to the city for adventure and all this shit. And thank God they did that, because if they didn't, it would have made no fucking sense why she was so chill with this so soon.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Like, she found out he was a vampire, walked in on him sucking Nicole's fucking neck.
Yeah, bro.
Watched a feral attack a woman, and then they're like, "You want to wipe her memory?" She's like, "No, I'm good.
She said, "Yeah, I'm great. I'm great."
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine." And we'll definitely get into it, but the whole setup of like who he really is, it just makes you like not care that he's a vampire.
Yeah, it's very weird. It becomes very like in the background. Like, it's just a background narrative. You're like, I like Adrian and he's a vampire. It's not he's a vampire and I like him. It's I like him and he's a vampire. Like, the order of those matter.
Yes, and even the beginning of chapter 2, which we're going to discuss, like how the dialogue goes down is just not how I thought it was going to go down. Like, it's just absolutely not. Like, even how Nicole reacts. Like, I said, oh, my bad. Like, we go get into it.
Right. Before we get into it, I do need to say that this book is, I don't know if it's necessarily rated 17+, but it did start off with a warning for violence in mature situations. Yeah. So just know that going into the episode, we are going to be discussing those type of situations. So if that makes you uncomfortable, or if you are of an age where you're not supposed to be listening to this type of content, then please go listen to another episode or wait for another episode where we're not discussing such sensitive subject matter. But that will be something we're discussing, just to give a content warning for those of you who are listening. Also, can I just say also, before I forget, in the Foreign Affairs episode 21, we were talking about like naming our listeners bodyguard and stuff like that. Kath jumped into my ass box on Tumblr, and she was like, it's a good nickname, but she was like, you missed an obvious one, which is calling our listeners choosers, since this is Choices Podcast.
I like that. I love that.
You know what, Kath? I feel like you're coming for my producer role, and it makes me feel very insecure. I feel like sometimes I tell Kath something and she comes back to me with an idea that's like 10 times better, and I'm like, are you looking for a job? Like,
wow, I like that a lot.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, that's actually a really good nickname. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like, do we have to settle on one? Why not both? Like, that was just kind of like my inclination is like, why can't we just say both?
It's whatever flows. It's going, when we in conversation.
I think it depends on the situation, because obviously the term bodyguard came up during a topic where we were talking about needing security.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe if we're in a situation where we feel safe, that's when we call them choosers. But when, our relationship to our listeners is very much like Tatum, I think.
Oh, yeah.
We're best friends, but they also protect us. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if we're in a situation where we need additional security, that would be where we would call them our bodyguards.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're just in a casual, safe environment and we're just having discussions, we call them choosers, right?
And that just goes along with us as well, because like if we being messy, we're gonna need some bodyguards. you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know?
Yes, if we're being messy, we call them bodyguards because we're gonna be like, y'all, we're about to be messy, so I need you to understand.
Right, right.
Yeah, no, I think we can fluctuate between both. So if you hear us calling our listeners as a whole bodyguards, our choosers, know that that's where the choosers nickname came from. But I got some good feedback. A lot of people on Instagram were telling me that they actually really like the nickname bodyguard.
Okay, good. That means y'all just as messy as us. I don't want to hear no back talk. I don't want to hear no back talk.
You're like, yeah, I guess if y'all fuck up, we gotta defend you now. You've been recruited. Okay, well then let's jump into chapter 2. Like I said, this is kind of one of those like plot heavier. I feel like there wasn't like a ton of like discussion questions that I could come up with, so just bear with me. I'm gonna try to get Lucas's opinion. I don't want to just be me talking for the next like 15 minutes going through it, and Lucas, of course, feel comfortable to jump in and interrupt whenever you have an opinion. So yeah, let's go ahead and start. Again, we're reading book 1. We're starting off with chapter 2, is titled The Vampire. And as a reminder, the MC's default name is Amy, so that's how we're going to be referring to the character. The chapter summary says you've just walked in on CEO Adrian Rains with his fangs sunk deep into a woman's neck. So that's a very good reminder. When we finished chapter 1, Amy had indeed walked in on Adrian sucking blood from Nicole's neck. And as a reminder, Nicole is his VP, so she's pretty high up in the company. Amy understandably freaks out, but Adrian and Nicole are like really, really chill about the entire thing. Like,
Too chill.
suspiciously chill. Like,
Nicole said, "Bitch, Bill, what are you doing here?" Like, I was
mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, okay."
She's getting her blood sucked, and she's like, "Don't you ever enter his office without knocking on his door ever again."
Right.
I'm like, that's the issue. They really didn't even seem concerned that Amy had walked in on them, to be honest. They're like, ugh, again, we got interrupted again. Every assistant does this. Can you put a fucking lock on your door,
No,
please?
dead
Like,
ass, like, for real.
I felt like I was interrupting an intimate moment. It was very awkward. So yeah, like I mentioned, Nicole scolds Amy for walking in unannounced, and Adrian will say that he'll debrief Amy later. And also, Emmy remembers the mandrake that she had meant to give to him, the entire reason why she came to the fucking office, and gave it to him. So then Adrian will say that he has a meeting with a person named Priya and asks Amy to join. Turns out Priya is a famous designer, and on their way to her fashion show, which is also where they're having a meeting. So on the way to the fashion show, Amy has the opportunity to ask more questions about Adrian's vampirism. So we're able to confirm a couple of details, like Adrian is able to say that the sun does affect vampires. Garlic is more so of an annoyance. It's not really a deterrent, but it's just kind of annoying. And that he does have like superhuman strength. So there are a couple of stereotypes that we're kind of ticking off in the conversation. And like you said, like Amy kind of gets past the surprise of him being a vampire and is very much just like, okay, now quiz me, like flashcards me
No, dead
what
ass. Like,
vampirism is.
even the way, like, the conversation that was, like, when she was like, "Do you have a superhuman strength?" And he was like, "What do you mean by that?" And I was like, "Bitch, what do you mean? What do I mean? Like, I don't
Yeah,
even
like
know what I
what
mean."
can a human lift versus what can you lift, bitch? Like
Right.
tell
And he was
me.
like, "Oh, can you lift a car?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, then. The fuck?"
You said answer the question I asked, motherfucker.
A car is like minimum 2 tons. So, like,
hmm
what is that's heavy.
And the way he answered it was like, duh, I can lift a car. He was like, you can't? So Adrian will also reveal this group called the Council, which is a group of 6 vampire leaders of the 6 vampire clans. And Priya is on the council, so of course she is a vampire. The council determined 2 rules. The first being that whenever a vampire feeds, it is from a consenting human being. And the second is that any new vampires have to be approved by the council. So there's kind of like a limitation number of vampires that can be created under this council. So Amy and Adrian will arrive at the fashion show, and at the show, Amy finds a scrap of paper that takes her into a vision from the past. The vision is of when Adrian was turned into a vampire by someone named Gaius Augustine. So at this point, this is kind of the first time that we have engaged with this character. During the vision, Adrian is horrified, but he quickly finds himself being like really bloodthirsty. He's a new vampire, yada yada yada. I think probably the majority of listeners have seen enough kind of like vampire movies or books or something where you know that this is like a trope. When a vampire first wakes up, they're a new vampire, they're like super super bloodthirsty usually in these stories. This is during the time when a British soldier who is very badly injured wanders over to Adrian, and when he learns that Adrian is on the side of the rebels, he tries to shoot Adrian, and that will cause Adrian to attack him. And when Adrian attacks him, he drinks his blood, and he just feels very, like, I guess refreshed is I don't know if that's like the appropriate adjective, but I would say that rejuvenated. Like this bitch just came out of a spa when he finished.
Right.
So that scene will end, and Amy will return to the present, and we'll get like an in-game notification that will tell us that we'll have the opportunity to collect more fragments using diamonds, which will unlock a few more memories and a bonus scene at the end of the book. So my question to you is, do you think that you're going to try to collect these?
No. I'm not really interested in like the hidden scenes of like vampirism and how he became who he is. I'm interested in that dick. So like, listen. The thing is, and maybe like plot too, because like I will say that the plot saves this book from it being cliche.
Yeah.
Like I think it does a really good job of like actually making Amy essential and actually having like an original vampire plot. Because like the whole idea that like New York City's ran by like 6 powerful vampires and they have 29 servants and like they all have this like order of balance, it's something that's not really like done a lot in vampire movies. And I don't know, like I really like it. But no, like I don't care. Baby, why am I worried about your past? Like we need to talk about our future. You gonna change me or not? Like what's the issue?
So
You know?
you're fully into this Adrian romance at this
I am
point.
just like Amy. Like, and like a lot of Amy's internal monologue, I was like, no, I'm right behind you, sis. Because she was just like, kind of like, nah, you know, you're not about to take my memory. Like, nah, it could be useful. Like, I'm not saying, you know, like, bite me right now. But, like, you know, we keep talking. I keep finding myself in these situations where if I'm like, damn, if I was a vampire, I wouldn't have to, like, be scared. You know, we might have to work some things out. We might have to re-sign a contract or something.
Also, there's this whole, I mean, we're skipping ahead, but there's this whole, like, feral problem in New York City that, like, the vampires aren't dealing with. So, like, I don't know about you, but I'm like, I kind of want to be a vampire so I can survive this shit. Like,
Oh,
as a human, I
absolutely.
can't fight these bitches.
And that's another thing that's so crazy that, like, it's like a group. Like, you got to be high-class vampire. Like, you can't be out here, like, slumming because, like, if you slumming and you don't have a clan and you don't have, like, a
Yeah.
protector's blood, you just gonna be out here being, like someone on rabies, like a vampire on rabies. And that is just such an interesting plot that, like, you can't just be out here getting turned. Like, you actually have to make connections with these, like, powerful people. You actually have to work for them. Like the price of immortality is very high. Like, you're a servant.
Ooh, I like that. There's a certain power dynamic you have to accept
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to become a vampire. But then it's like, well then it kind of carries into this other conversation, which is like who actually consented to be a vampire versus like who's just here.
True.
You know what I mean? Like I wonder how many vampires were like, no, I want to be a vampire, because that's like a really hefty thing to sign up for, you know? Like I think the burden of living forever is like a lot bigger than I think it gets sold to be in a lot of these like fictional, I guess, stories. Because I mean, you have immortality in like pretty much every single form of fiction, right? But that's a really big burden to undertake. And then you enter what is essentially this like second realm of politics. It's like insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
society that you're agreeing to be a part of by being a vampire. Like it's kind of like, is immortality worth it? Like what are you really getting? Because now life is becoming like infinitely more complicated. I love discussing the ethics and like the pros and cons of becoming a vampire. Okay, so yeah, I'm kind of the same thing as you. I mean, to be honest, I never really tried to get the extra scenes. I just really did not care. But I think also, like, now that the book's fully released, like, I don't think you really kind of need these teasers, right? Because usually when you get a bonus scene at the end of the book, it's kind of like hinting towards what the sequel's going to be about. But all of the books are released. Like, it's a finished series. So for me, it's like, if you're playing it as a new player and you're just now starting Bloodbound, like I don't really think you need to spend diamonds on the diamond scenes, because the bonus scene is only enticing if you're waiting for the other book, but it's already out there. I wouldn't recommend it if you're a new player. So then Adrian will need to meet with Priya after the show, but we'll say that the meeting space is a vampire room, which could be very dangerous for Amy. There is a 19 diamond scene to go ahead and go with Adrian anyways. Did you take the scene?
I said, let's go.
Okay.
I
So
said,
you
come
went
on.
ahead, you did the
Mm-hmm.
gamble. Okay. So in the scene, Adrian will meet Priya, who is immediately interested in Amy, and Priya will assume that Amy is like her gift from Adrian. Adrian will get very defensive. He'll pivot the conversation and mention that there are feral vampires that are attacking people, and he accuses Priya of turning vampires without the council's permission, and Priya will deny this. Amy, at some point in the conversation, bitch, I don't even remember how, but somehow she loses her balance and she falls back and like cuts herself. And so like all the vampires can like smell her blood essentially.
Yeah, and that was so annoying. I said, Amy, you are so like embarrassing right now.
In front of the whole group of vampires, you gonna cut
Come
yourself?
on. I'm like, you gotta be this cliche.
How hard do you have to fall to cut yourself? Could someone explain that to me? Because it's a smooth floor. It's not like she fell on concrete and like busted her skin open. Like, what did she fall back on? I can't even. That's the thing that pissed me off when I was reading the narration. I was like, I don't even remember how she fell back. Priya was like, I'm not turning them, and then Amy just fell, and I'm like, what? How did that happen? She will fall. All the vampires will like turn to look at her and start to converge on Amy, and Adrian will kind of jump in front of her to defend her. And the situation will be quickly diffused because like no one's trying to fuck with Adrian. But Adrian still handles Priya suspiciously when they leave. So after that scene, Amy and Adrian will walk through a park and they'll encounter a woman who is being attacked by a feral vampire, and that is the cliffhanger that the chapter ends on. These early chapters, I think I agree with you. Like, there's definitely a lot of cliches that come with creating like a vampire show you can kind of expect. But I do like how the plot really like moves along pretty swiftly in these early chapters. I mean, it's only chapter 2 when you're like already getting an insight into like how the council works, and Adrian's already beefing with other council members. Like, he's first of
Yes.
all, this
Yeah.
man bold and brash running around to the vampire leaders and being like, "Are you turning people?"
And you know what's so crazy? Like, I know we'll talk about it later because, like, in Adrian's point of view, he is still doing the debriefing, but he's spilling
Mhm.
all the fucking tea. He's like, oh,
Oh
yeah, that
yeah.
bitch, she 150, which is, like, basically a teenage vampire. So, like, she off the walls. Like, she ain't got no
Mhm.
home training. And I'm like, damn, Adrian, you gonna drag her like that? Like, she a council member. She might be a teenager, but, like, yo, like, she a whole council member. She powerful.
I want to know how Priya like how does a fashion designer rise to that level of like prominence in the community? I want to know what her story is. Like, I want to know how she got to where
And
she
you know what's
is.
so crazy? It has to be the idea that like immortality is the true form of art. Like, you know, becoming a
Mm.
vampire, like you're just so gorgeous and so like powerful and like
Cause
invincible
she's
and like
hot.
yes. And like the fashion world is all about that. It's all about like emanating beauty and like powerfulness. And like that's probably right. You know, she probably like looking at badass models like, you want to be an even better bitch? And they were like, yes. Like
Just her turning all of her runway models. I'm done.
absolutely.
But I think there's something also to her personality in the scene. Like, I mean, she sees Amy and she's like, "Oh, is she for me?" Like, I think there's a certain level of like savagery that she has, for
Yes.
lack of a better word, because like you can tell that she kind of just treats humans like her playthings.
Oh, absolutely.
So I wonder if there's a certain amount of like ruthlessness that kind of comes with her personality that kind of like aided her in getting to this position.
And you know what? While we on this diamond scene, you know what I realized?
Hmm.
When Adrian was feeding on Nicole, he kind of like, you know, the cliche like a vampire's blood could be used to heal someone. So like he like kind of
Yeah.
like what he like bit his finger and like pressed it to her neck and it healed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But in the diamond scene, he licking all of my fingers and like want to pull out a handkerchief. I'm like, you can't heal me, bitch. What is this? You can't heal me? Because like I just knew that's where it was going, kinda,
Hmm.
and like it just didn't happen. And like he was just like,
Right.
clean yourself up, and I was like, wow, okay.
Do you think because like when they bite the neck, right?
Hmm.
It's two little holes from their
Right.
teeth.
Maybe. Yeah, he's covering up the signature.
Do you think they need like an equal amount of blood or something to like whatever, however big the wound is, they need like an equal amount of blood to like heal? So if you have
Oh.
like a bigger cut, do you think that they literally have to drain themselves to like save you?
Well, in folklore, the idea is just like, you know, yeah, a couple gulps will like essentially like bring someone, you know,
Yeah,
that was on the brink of dying back to life.
yeah.
But like I don't know. Maybe he just, you know, was too busy worried about her. But I picked that up and I said, okay. I said, all right. That's fine. It's fine.
You said I see Nicole gets the ER treatment, but I don't. Okay.
Yeah, for real. Like, wow, okay.
Okay, before we get on with the rest of the chapter, let me interrupt with some plugs. So you can leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/play-choices-podcast/message. It could show up in a future episode. You can also directly support this podcast at anchor.fm/play-choices-podcast/support. If we haven't convinced you yet, listen to this amazing, amazing commercial that Lucas and I put together for you. It
In
takes
the
me
arms
hours.
of an angel.
It takes me, no, keep singing. It takes me
I
hours to record. No, keep doing it.
Here
It takes me
are
hours to record and edit this podcast.
wherever you
And
are.
with your donation
I believe
of
that
$1 a
my
month
heart will
could save me from
go
smashing her fucking head into a
on.
wall.
Why does the heart
Thank you
go?
so much. And back to our episode. All right, let's start on the next chapter. It's chapter 3. It's titled The Library, and the chapter summary says, a hideous creature has attacked you on the streets of Central Park. What is it, and what will you do? So picking up from the last chapter, the feral that we saw attacking the woman will look at Amy and immediately goes to attack. Adrian is able to kill it, and then Amy calls 911 for the woman. Adrian will explain that ferals are what happens when turning a vampire goes wrong. The only way it can be prevented is if someone is branded with a clan symbol. And Adrian explains that a feral's bite can also infect vampires. So basically, if the feral had gotten him during the fight, he would have been done. So even feral vampires are very, very dangerous to vampires as well. This is where Adrian can further explain his hypothesis that someone is turning vampires without the council's permission, because there are a bunch of these unclaimed vampires that are turning feral. Okay, so Adrian will lead Amy to a museum to debrief Amy on vampirism history. And let me ask you something. When he said debrief, what was the definition of debrief in your mind?
Bitch, not that.
When I think of debrief, I thought he was going to be like, oh, we go to a museum, we're going to open up some books, we're going to show you the history of vampires.
Yeah, I thought he was debriefing as in this is everything you need to know at any given time to thoroughly be able to do this job. Maybe a warning even.
Yeah.
No, mm-mm.
So in the actual scene where he says he's going to quote unquote debrief us, we meet Jameson, who is the keeper of the library, and Jameson explains that debriefing is actually a psychic process that would erase Amy's memories. So Amy gets very offended. She doesn't consent to the erasure because she is excited about what happened that night, and she also wants to help stop the feral problem. So my question for you, if this was real life, and if you were in Amy's position, would you have accepted the debrief or no?
Ooh, no. I don't think I would. Ooh, see, because the only alternative to not accepting it is that you have to work for him.
Yeah, because I don't feel like. How do you get exposed to? Well, how do you get exposed to all that? I mean, I guess you could be like, I don't want to be debriefed, but I do want to quit. But I feel like at that point they would just force you.
Oh yeah, most def.
You know,
Cause you're not about to make a killing talking to some reporter and then
or
having
writing a book,
right a
or
tell-all
yeah,
book. Them bitches
yeah,
make money. You hear me?
yeah.
No. So, no, I think I will say yes. I know me. I would say yes. I'd be like, oh,
I would
running around
definitely
with,
say yes. I would be
yeah,
like,
running around the city with vampires. On the way.
yep.
It's so funny because I understand that immortality, it could be bad, it could be lonely, but just the idea of living forever with the ability to just constantly learn new things, never have to worry about money because I'm fucking rich because I'm rolling with the most influential people in New York City. And just, if I fall in love with him, I don't got to worry about everything these little other these little other night walker hoes be having to worry about. That's not me.
Nightwalker hoes? Who are you referring to? Are you talking about other vampires?
Yeah, man. These little yes daddy, yes mommy, because I'm gonna be
Oh my
chilling with
god.
Adrian. I'm gonna be going to all the meetings. I'm gonna have a voice, but I'm not gonna have to necessarily get my hands dirty.
Oh my
Like
god.
I'm about to be a queen. I'm about to be up in that bitch.
Me and you were way different because I think immortality is I think immortality would be a punishment. I don't view it as a gift.
I'll just kill myself when I get tired of it.
Oh my god.
Stand in the sun for what 30 minutes, right? It's fine.
You start packing out. Adrian's like, babe, where you going? I said, to the beach, bitch. We're
To
going
the
to the
beach,
beach.
bitch.
He
I'm
just
about to go
took it away.
swimming.
They say what they gonna say.
Bad bitches like me, it's hard to come by, okay? No, like, at least, and that's the thing, like, it's not true immortality because you have a way out.
I really can't think of any beings that are like really, really immortal, right? Because I think every fictional being can be killed
Right,
somehow. I
right,
think immortality isn't necessarily not being able to die, but just rather having a significantly longer lifetime than someone of the same species, right?
right.
Because vampires are kind of their own species, but they are essentially bred from humans, right? Like every vampire is once a human.
Yes,
Because as
yes,
far as we know in this story, vampires aren't fertile. So like they can only kind of reproduce by quote unquote turning an existing human. So to me that's like the definition of immortality. Not necessarily being unable to die,
right,
but having an almost impossible chance of dying.
right.
Because vampires, they gotta be fucking hard to kill. Like,
By normal standards,
yeah, by normal standards, I think they would be very, very difficult to kill. I think immortality is sad because like I understand like well number one like look at the fucking problems they have, bitch. Like I'm not trying to worry about all this shit.
that is
These
true.
vampires, they look stressed. They look stressed. They got a full agenda, bitch. They working. I mean, Adrian's in the office at 8 p.m. Like, damn, bitch. Imagine living forever and still working corporate. Could you imagine? Could you imagine being almost 400 years
Oh
old
my
and
god, I guess
still
that's true. I guess definitely in this sense, it would be a lot harder because they're not regular vampires. You have to have allegiance to some sort of like, person in order to not be
yeah.
feral. And I'm not trying to live my life on the edge. I mean,
And they're
guys,
in politics too. They're like
mm-hmm.
leaders and they're like public figures in New York. That's the other thing that confuses the fuck out of me. Like, okay, we're gonna talk about Twilight. How they moved to a different city every like 10 years just so
Yeah,
no one questioned who they were. Like, can someone answer if you are Adrian Raines, CEO of Raines Corporation, how are you gonna explain away you not aging? Or like how are you gonna maintain your dominance in New York City? How?
that's so true.
How the fuck do like you know how many lives and identity? We don't even know if Adrian's his real name. This could be his 10th persona he's gone through. We don't know. That seems stressful.
That's so true.
And God
Oh my
forbid, like
god.
if you have like vampire friends and stuff, then like I guess you can live out the rest of your life with them. But like anyone who you cared about as a human, bitch, they gone. You gonna have to live through lifetimes of losing people that are important to you if you form a bond with a human.
Yeah.
That's why I think immortality seems so fucking dark to me because it's like you how much death can one person handle? That's the question that I have. If you're immortal and you go your entire life just like building relationships with humans, then like they're gonna die at some point. Like how do you cope with that? I just don't understand. Cause I think about it and I'm like all the important people in my life like dying, like at the end of it, I'm like, do I even want to get to know someone else if I know it's gonna end like that? I know that sounds really dark.
Yes. I guess that's why vampires are so desensitized and like try to stray away from like having connections with humans. But like having
Yeah.
like just a world full of vampires, like, oh my god, it'd
That
get
seems
tiring so
stressful.
fucking
First of all, they seem like
fast.
assholes. Adrian's the only nice one we've met.
Right, like I'm like, all y'all care about is sucking. Y'all boring. Like what?
All y'all care about is sucking.
Ooh, I was like, anywho, what time is it? It's about to be sunrise. Like
They're
shit.
like, we have all this money, right? Y'all trying to go party? Like, why you always trying to kill people? I don't understand. Oh my fucking god! All y'all care about is sucking. Oh my god. So I would have personally taken the debrief. I'm like, bitch, I don't want to get anywhere near this. I just need Sharpie written on my forearm being like, stop going out at night because there are random attacks happening in the city. That's all I want on my arm. Like that, I feel like as long as you can avoid that, you're good. Don't go out into Central Park at midnight and you probably won't get attacked by a feral, in my opinion. So Adrian will move to leave the library after, Amy refuses the debrief, and Amy will ask to stay. Adrian will offer to give a tour. This is a scene for 16 diamonds. So did you take it?
No.
Yeah, no.
No, I don't care.
No. No, I don't care. Like
I don't fucking care.
I'm not one of those people that like goes to the museum by myself, you know? Like I don't
Right.
that's not of interest to me. I'm sorry. But if you do take the scene, let me explain. If you do take the scene, this scene will start off very light and fluffy. You know, they're having like nice banter. I will say, like, the one thing that I like about Adrian is probably like the only agreeable employee boss relationship because Adrian's just so fucking innocent in all the scenes you take with him. And it's like Amy who's flirting with him, and he's like, huh? Like, he just always seems like real fucking confused when Amy flirts with him. And it's kind of like really endearing, actually. So yeah, the dialogue will just be super flirty, super lighthearted, and then Amy will ask what happened to Adrian's last assistant. Because if you recall, in chapter one, they're like, "Damn, you go through a lot of assistants, Adrian." We were like, "Oh, what is all that about?" So that is when he starts to describe that she was actually bribed by a competitor to steal information from his labs. And while she was in the lab, she was attacked by the ferals that they were studying. So she did survive, but she didn't want to remember anything that happened to her. So, you know, she was quote unquote debriefed. And then outside of that story, the diamond scene is super lighthearted. So I know I talk a lot of shit about like employee boss relationships, but this is probably one that I feel slightly less icky about. I don't know. It feels like they transcended the barrier between employee and boss like very quickly.
Absolutely. Because let me tell you, this is not an employee boss relationship. Like, you might as well call fucking Amy a vampire hunter. Like, she
Oh
about to
my
be out
god.
here hunting down ferals, and like, this transcends like an average job. Because this is her life now, right? Like, the idea of a job is that you can separate it from, your home life.
Mhm.
But her work life is going to follow her to her home life. She doesn't have a home life. Like, she's worried about the people that she cares about. Lord knows if she can try to stop this and the city's not overrun by feral vampires, then like that's a good thing.
I just feel like Amy's life before this must have been so fucking boring because, like, how bored do you have to be in your day to day life that you're like, yeah, I'll just consent to being attacked by ferals just so I can, like, tag along with this 300-year-old vampire? Like, I don't know about y'all, but, like, I live a very, like, happy and content life. And, like, if someone was like, hey, V, would you want to come along with me and be a vampire hunter? I'd be like, the fuck? No, I'm gonna be at home. I'm
This
gonna be
girl
at
must have been
home.
watching fucking paint dry. You hear me?
She must have been like in her home watching Vampire Diaries and being like, God, I one day,
Yeah.
bitch, one day. She's basically Bella from Twilight. Like I'm like, damn, y'all women must be
Yes,
so
yes,
boring
yes.
to subject
Very
yourself to this shit.
cliche. Like, very, very cliche. Very like. I started to feel that when like she picked up that fabric and had a whole fucking flashback. I'm like, oh my god, come on. I'm like, Jesus, she's so okay with it.
When she was talking about the small town, she was like everything's so boring and like how she like had supportive parents, but she didn't really like I don't know, she didn't really seem that into her relationship with her
Right,
family. Like
right.
I was like, damn, but she just mad apathetic to everything. Like she's
Yes,
probably an
yes.
adrenaline junkie, honestly. That's probably why she's so fucking into this plot. I don't know. She's a very peculiar character. And she definitely like transcended. I mean, they're still I technically are they in Boston employee? Yes, but like the level of dedication that she's showing to this job is just like to me a little bit weird. I feel like Adrian's just like, okay, let's do a couple of meetings. She's like, how do I save your life? Are
No,
you in
for
danger?
real.
How do I
Yes,
save you?
yes, yes. He's over here like, oh my god, are you okay? She's like, are you okay? And
Yeah.
he's like,
I don't know how you go through the whole scene in the fucking club where like all the vampires are converging on you and you're like, yeah, I do that again. Like, huh? I don't understand. I think there needs to be a deeper psychosis that is like determined, ran on Amy. I think there's some more analysis that needs to be done there. So I'm just not quite understanding where her psyche is right now. So the next night, Amy will sleep all day and she'll wake up to Lily playing video games. Lily admits that her girlfriend broke up with her to get back with her ex, and Amy can suggest that they go out for 18 diamonds to cheer Lily up. So did you take the scene?
Again, like they just did not do a good job forming that relationship. I don't care. No, I don't care.
I I like Lily as a character, but like, aren't they like brand new? Don't they barely know each other? I'm like, I'm not gonna spend 18 diamonds for a character who I only see like after 10 p.m. because my job takes me fucking like I'm at my job from like 6 to 11 p.m. Like she's clearly an LI, right? But I could never really get into Lily as an LI. Like I really had liked her as a friend, but from an LI perspective, there was just how you gonna try to sell me someone as an LI when she's still hung up on her ex?
Yeah, no, that just I'll take the vampire. Like,
Every word is Melanie. Every fucking word is like, oh, Melanie, Melanie. And I'm like, bitch. And you want me to pay 16 diamonds for this scene? Or 18 diamonds, sorry. It's even more expensive than I remember it being. I didn't take the scene, and I will tell you, it's really not that significant. I mean, if you really like Lily as a person and you're into her like romance arc, then sure, go ahead and take it. But it's really just like dialogue about them being drunk at a club. Like it's a cute scene. Don't get me wrong, it is a cute scene, but I personally would not have paid for it. No matter how you decide to end the night, however, the narration will allude that a pair of glowing eyes is watching the two, and it'll end on that cliffhanger. So we kind of meet like a new character at the end of the chapter who's watching them, which is not unsettling at all. And yet again, like the plot just continues to kind of hurtle forward and forward and forward. So let's move on to chapter 4 called The Rebel. The chapter summary says that Adrian has a new task for you, entering the lair of the council's most dangerous member. So the chapter will start off with Adrian and Amy meeting at the office at 8 p.m. on a Monday night. Adrian will describe that the feral in the park was a part of the Baron's clan. So the Baron is a new council member we're being introduced to. The Baron was a gangster from the 1920s, and he owns organized crime in New York. And Adrian wants Amy to deliver a summons to the Baron to appear before the council and to account for the feral. So Amy must deliver the summons to his speakeasy called the Shrike, and the guards will typically block the council members, so that's why he's sending Amy in there, because they're not going to recognize her. Adrian will offer to put a temporary brand on Amy as a symbol of protection, so did you take this?
absolutely. I say you gotta do what you gotta do.
I mean, you bring in a pen to a gunfight. Like, I don't really know what to tell you if you don't take that fucking brand.
Yes, yes.
Like, if you don't take the brand, then I'm just assuming that you're like, okay, you probably this is like Amy's death wish if you don't take that fucking brand.
And also, like, if you do take the diamond scene in the previous episode, like we discussed, then like the mere sight of him getting angry silenced a whole room of vampires who could have easily overpowered him.
I don't think they could have overpowered him.
Really?
No. Because, like he said, these are a bunch of baby vampires versus a vampire that's been in the game for like 300 plus years.
Okay, okay.
I think, especially, you have to consider these are the vampires that Pri is hanging out with.
Right.
They are of a naturally ruthless nature. I think it's a combination of both, like the kind of like the social impacts of attacking someone like Adrian Raines, who's really high up on. I mean, obviously he's a fucking council member, like he's very high up on the vampire social rank. But I also think he's super powerful.
He better bring everybody fucking neck in there. That's kind of hot.
I think so. I think he would. I think if it came down to it, he would take all of them. I believe in Adrian. I'm not like an Adrian fangirl, but like I do believe that he could kick their asses.
Right. Even
So.
there was like one dialogue option where he was like, do you want to come or something? Or like he was like, yeah, come with me to this meeting. And I was like, okay, yeah, but you're paying me like literally like double pay. He was like, okay. And I was like, oh, that's hot. I like who you are as a person. Like, I just feel like he could protect me. Like, I like that.
Gotcha. I don't know. I will say, just to kind of preface for everyone, I played all 3 Bloodbound books, and I'll tell you, like, I felt very kind of towards all of the allies. Like, I wasn't necessarily kind of like taken towards one of them. It was all of them were kind of like on level playing field, and like, I feel like I took all their diamond scenes at one point, just because I could. Like, I wasn't monogamous with like a certain ally or anything. The other thing that I wanted to say was that number one, I mean, that was just a room full of vampires, right? Now you're walking into the den of the vampire who is a part of organized crime in New York.
That
Like,
is
he's
true.
like the
You're going,
kingpin.
yeah. You're meeting another council member without like
You're
any,
meeting another council member,
yeah.
not just a council member, the kingpin of organized crime in New York.
And that literally has cops under his belt.
Why would the fuck would you walk in there with no protection? I don't understand.
Absolutely.
The fact that that's even a fucking option, like, just blows my mind. That like Amy could have thought for even a fucking second that she was going to survive that situation without a fucking brand. Like, to me, that being a choice is like insane. Like, I don't understand that. The fact that Adrian would even let Amy walk out of that room without that brand. is insane to me. Like, if I were him, I would be like, listen, it's going to be painful, but like, also, it's not even going to compare to the amount of pain you would feel without it. Like, I did not understand that being a choice.
He said they will rip you apart, baby.
Yeah, they
Okay.
will literally rip you open. Like, this is what they did as humans in the 1920s, and now they're vampires. So Adrian will give Amy some rules. Amy must announce herself as a council member, and then she must bow her head as she presents the summons. So there's just like certain things she has to do per tradition, whatever. Amy will arrive at the speakeasy, which again is called the Shrike, and will quickly run into the Baron. And then when Amy presents the summons, the Baron's guards will grab her and move to lock her up. So as they're moving her to the holding place, a stranger will come in to save the day. So this is the same stranger who was staring at Amy and Lily at the end of the last chapter. And this man will save Amy and take her to a safe location. Alright, before we move on to the rest of the chapter, let me interrupt to plug our socials. We are at Playchoices Podcast on Instagram and at PlayChoicesPod on Twitter. You can also go to playchoicespodcast.tumblr.com for our Tumblr page, which is where I post any episode notes that I have, like links to posts that I've mentioned, photos I've mentioned, or more. We're also available for listening on all major platforms, so if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate, review, and subscribe. It's a funky thing with the algorithm that helps us a lot. I wish I could explain it more in depth, but I just know that it helps us, so we do appreciate any reviews that you leave us. And as always, we are a growing podcast, so if you see us pop up on your socials, we do appreciate a share, a retweet, or a reblog, depending on the platform you see us on. We also appreciate it when you share our podcast with your fellow choices-loving friends. And now, back to the episode. So the man will introduce himself as Jax Matsu, but is quickly interrupted by two other characters, a young girl and an older man, who are named Lula and Arnold, respectively. Amy will figure out quickly that the vampires here are clanless, and as Jax keeps talking and reveals that he knows her connection with Adrian, she will quickly piece together that Jax must have been following her in order for him to have so much knowledge about her. Jax will say that she's free to leave at any time because he can't take her hostage without Adrian, like, hunting him down. And Amy will move to leave, but will curiously ask whether the other clanless are at danger of becoming ferals, and Jax is a bit taken aback by her concern. And when he sees that, she's kind of acting a little bit more, I guess, interested compared to like usual people who would know about them being clanless, he offers her a drink to stay. So Jax will describe that the clanless can stave off being feral by feeding on humans that they had a close relationship with, but it's usually just only a matter of time before they kind of succumb to it. Jax gets like visibly upset during this discussion, saying that none of the clanless wanted to be vampires, so they were all turned against their will, and now they're being forced to live in the shadows of New York, just kind of like waiting for their time to come. And he's very bitter towards the clans because all they would need to do is to brand everyone, so that way the vampires could live without this fear. So I would say at this point in the chapter, like during this conversation, like how did you feel about Jax? Does this conversation kind of change your opinion about Adrian or the council?
It does change my opinion about the council, yes. But I also was just like kind of annoyed because like I don't know, like his character, yes, but his backups, little bit fucking wannabe Babette from damn fucking Skyrim, wannabe Dark Brotherhood vampire girl. I was just like, get out my face. Like, she just came in too aggressive. I did not like her. And the other man that was with him, same. I was like, I'm trying to find out information, and y'all coming at me like I'm even supposed to know what's going on. Listen, I'm still new. Okay, don't let this brand confuse you. I know nothing.
Damn, you gonna tell me how you feel about Jax?
He just, he's supposed to be giving me information, and he not doing that. Like that's all I'm. That's the only reason why I would be like kind of interested. But by the time, because like the diamond scene coming up, I was like, I'm not even interested in taking it.
I guess I just interpreted it differently. I mean, I agree with you. The rest of the clan list I could really do without. Like, I didn't really care
Right.
for their interactions. But for Jax, I feel like when I was first playing this book, that was kind of the thing where I was like, I need to talk to Adrian.
Yes, that's kind of how I felt, and that's why I was like, get out my face.
Why does that make you say get out of their face if you're feeling sympathetic towards them?
Not sympathetic, but again, I don't know anything about the vampire race, so how do we know that everything he's saying is even valid? The only person that I can trust is the one who's been saving my life. Granted, do I walk in these situations? Absolutely. 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 But her initial reaction is knowing that, like, oh, hey, you've been watching me and you want to save me for your own reason, no matter what that is. Like, that's at least Adrian gave me the choice of like what I could walk into. I could be sympathetic, but I don't necessarily trust them. Like, you could tell me everything, but I need to talk to my boss, and he got to verify it. So he could just be a lying ass about to be feral, want to be like high clanman.
It's not so much that I approach this scene saying that, like, oh yeah, I trust Jax 100%, because
Mm-hmm.
obviously he's doing some shady shit. But I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, he saved your life because, like, you were getting taken off to the cells.
You were
And
banished.
two, I mean, really, like, he brought you to his den and then he was like, yeah, you can go. Like, you can leave at any point. So I think it's kind of the thing where you're kind of like, this is weird because you're like, you're supposed to be the bad guy, but like, I also don't know if you're the bad guy anymore. It's one of those, like, kind of complicated kind of things. I think for me, like, I just have a general distrust of rich people. So when he tells me that, like, there's this council that has like these rules that kind of like fuck over some of the smaller vampires who like aren't necessarily like in a position of power like the council members are, I think that's a moment where my head kind of goes, oh, okay, this is how the other half lives, kind of thing. Like, because I think writing with Adrian is like very easy to be like, yeah, I would love to be a vampire. But like, when you think about who the average vampire is, like, the average vampire is not a fucking council member.
That is true. That's very valid.
So for me, I'm like, yeah, it's probably easy for Adrian to look like a good person when you're only seeing one side of the story. So when you have another character come in and he explains to you, like, this is how we live, and like, the council members could help, but haven't passed any laws or rules that would allow them to. I can see where that kind of comes in, and that's where I kind of start to look at Adrian and say, like, well, what are you doing, Mr. Council Member, to kind of alleviate this problem? Because you have a whole subsection of your species that is just out here, like, just waiting to die, just could die any day. So that was more so it for me, not necessarily that I was like, oh yeah, I can trust Jax, but just more so kind of being, I don't think there's an addition of trust for Jax, but I think there's an addition of suspicion for, have I been led in a certain direction or given a certain point of view that kind of puts Adrian and the council in like a light that may not necessarily be how everyone else sees them.
I like that. I like that. I like how you phrased that. That was good.
I will say, like, at this point, I felt sympathetic for Jax. Like, I was like, okay, you're a little sketchy, but you kind of have like a sob story as to why you're acting a little bit bizarre, why you were following me. And I think too, like, if you live a life like Jax, where he's like explaining to you, he's like, yeah, I really can't ever be seen because like it's pretty much on site if I'm seen in these streets, like we have to hide. So I think when someone kind of explains that their life is like that, I think I just get a little bit more sympathy because I'm like, okay, I can kind of understand why you're like sneaking around because you're trying to gain intel, right? And at the end of the day, like, he was following you, but like, I mean, he kind of saved your life too. So I feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. I mean, do I trust him? No, but I also feel like he just kind of introduces this other point of view that is probably really important for the readers and the MC to kind of gain a part of, because otherwise you're thinking that vampirism is like this life of luxury and it isn't like that for
Right.
everybody.
Right.
So Jax will tell Amy to go, but Amy can stay and get to know the clanless for 17 diamonds. So I know you said that you didn't take the scene, but I'll tell you what happens. So Amy will take the opportunity to get to know the clanless, and she'll learn that the clanless are rejected from both the vampire and the human world. So like, obviously the humans think they're monsters, but then like if you're clanless, then it's pretty, like I said, it's on site in these streets, so you got to be real careful. She will offer to speak to Adrian for the clanless, but Jax will say it's pointless because unless they can get the majority of the votes in the council, they won't be able to actually change any laws. So Jax can also reveal that he was injured in the fight earlier, but he can't heal without blood. So he like hasn't drank human blood in a bit. So in order for him to heal quickly, that's what he needs to do. At this point, Amy can either offer her blood or not to Jax. So I know you didn't take the scene, but if you had, would you have lent him your blood?
Oh, I think I would. I think I would. Like eye for an eye, right?
Yeah, I feel like he did save our ass. So I'm like, okay, go ahead
Yeah,
and take a little
yeah,
bite. Go ahead.
yeah.
Take a little
Give a little
sip.
nibble. Tell me how it
Have a
tastes.
little Capri Sun sip.
Yeah.
Come on.
Don't jam the straw through either, okay? Do it
Right. You be
delicately.
gentle, lubricate it before you go in. So, if you do, I will say that this book definitely plays on. I mean, do you remember? Hold on, let me just sidetrack for a little bit. Do you remember those books? There was this book series that I read growing up about a girl who went to like a vampire school.
The Vampire Academy? Or the ones your mom be reading, the burned and like torment and the house of
Marked. That's what it was.
yes, that's what yes, your mom's read those. Yeah, yeah, marked. Yeah,
Because
yeah, the marked series.
I read them, and then my mom found them, and she was like,
Mm-hmm.
"I want to start reading them." Yeah, this is the one where she was fucking her professor. Do you remember that plot line? Did you ever read
Yes,
these?
yes, yes. I read the marked series, yes. I stopped. I there's so many books, child.
There's so many
There's so
books.
many. I said, damn, how y'all stretch this plot?
They had marked, betrayed, chosen, untamed, hunted, tempted, burned, awakened, destined, hidden, revealed, redeemed. This shit went on for 7 years. They released their first book in May of 2017 and ended it in October of 2014. Then they had House of Night, Otherworld, Loved, Lost, Forgotten, Found. They had 4 novellas and 4 other related books. Anywho, I don't know if you remember that book, but the blood sucking scenes were like sexual. The main character was out here having an orgasm whenever a vampire fed on her.
Yeah.
It was so strange. I've never really like understood that trope, like why it would feel good. I mean, I understand that they have to like I guess there has to be some sort of enticement for a human to like want to give
Right,
their blood,
right.
right? So I guess this is what it is like it has to feel good in order for the human to really consent to that because it was painful than I would imagine not a lot of people would. And so they definitely lean on that trope in this book if you give him the opportunity to take some of your blood. It is sexual. I will say that. It's very weird because this is Amy's first time giving blood and as the reader this is our first time, giving blood. So this is, all new for everybody involved. And so like the whole clanless clan, I'm gonna call them the clanless clan, they'll all be there because they're like, oh Jax, you gotta drink blood or whatever. And Amy will offer, and then it says in the narration, like the rest of the people in the room turn around to give them privacy. And I was like, huh?
Oh,
I was like,
oh.
um,
Okay.
for what? What do we need privacy for? And then he stuck his 2 teeth in and she started describing what it felt like and I was like, oh. That's why. Okay. Yeah, I would say expect that from future scenes when you are giving blood to somebody that it's gonna be horny.
A little risky,
A
a little
little
flirtatious.
it's more than flirtatious, it's horny.
Oh God, they was
Yeah.
describing it like. Hold on, I gotta watch the diamond scene.
So either way, regardless of like whether you decide to give him your blood or not, Jax will be very appreciative for Amy being open-minded and will walk away giving Amy his phone number. So after Amy leaves, she'll run into Adrian kind of pacing the streets outside, and Amy will get upset and tells Adrian that his brand, if she did take it, that his brand didn't work. And Adrian will say that he has spies in the Baron's clan and they had planned to free her all along. So it turns out she was never in fucking danger, I guess. Adrian will also ask how Amy escaped, and Amy can either say it was her own doing or she can admit that a clanless helped her. So what did you choose to tell Adrian?
I was honest.
Yeah, I was honest too. I was like, first of all, I was like, we're not about to miss the opportunity for me to fucking interrogate you about what you're doing about this. So I picked the truth. I wanted him to know that Jax had helped me. I wanted him to know that I was getting, some sympathy for the clanless, wanted to hear his point of view on it. And if you do admit the truth, Amy will advocate for the clanless and will ask Adrian if he can help. Adrian will admit that he's been trying for years to change the rules, but he just has like a hard time kind of gaining the majority of the vote. Specifically, there's like 3 people who would vote to help and 3 people who wouldn't. So they're pretty split in half on this. So Amy will go back to her apartment after this conversation, and she'll find Lily's body on the floor where her neck is punctured by 2 bite marks. Our roommate, our bestie, she did. Well, she's been
R.I.P.
bitten. She's been bitten. Let me not be dramatic. She's been bitten. That's what we know. Okay, so let's just do some rapid impressions. Remember,
Okay.
first thing that comes off the dome. Let's just start with Adrian.
So.
So. Okay,
Yeah.
because I thought you would be a little bit more gung ho.
Like, I'm intrigued. I would want to be a vampire, but like, I just all these problems, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like I don't have enough information. It's like that, like, instead of just telling me everything at one time, it's like, oh crap, okay, now I got to tell you this because this is happening. Like, no, can we just have a heart to heart? Can you let me know? You
Mm-hmm.
know, you telling me my life is in danger. You're not giving me a lot of solutions to me
Right.
protecting myself.
Right. Okay.
Because if that was the case, it should have been like, here's his brand. By the way, if anything goes down, I have spies in there who will protect
Mm-hmm.
you. Not like, you got to let me know everything.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't like that he just let you go in and didn't say nothing.
You see? And that's when it changed. I was all like, Adrian, and then that happened. And I said, you couldn't let me know that you had inside men?
I don't know. If you're listening right now and you have an idea why he hid that from us, I'm lost. I don't understand why he couldn't let us into that little secret.
Right, right.
Okay, let's talk about Lily.
She just there. I mean, like, she okay, I'm like sympathetic towards her. I get it, but she's just there. She doesn't really add value to like anything yet. But now she might because she bit, or she on the floor right now, dead. you know, she's adding plot.
Oh my god. These female characters, they truly get dust from you. You give them nothing. You don't even breathe in their direction.
It's just I don't think she was adding plot until now.
I'm just trying to think about the last couple of books that were recorded. No, I mean, I guess you like Zoe from Queen
I love
Bee.
Zoe. I love
You like Kamala from the first chapter.
right, ride or die, best friend, love her.
Right, you love Rhea. Okay, I stand corrected. I
This
stand
one is like,
corrected.
if she was really my best friend, shouldn't we have been given the option to tell
Well,
her that
okay,
vampires exist?
let's talk about it, okay?
I mean,
Because
like,
they try to sell this fucking relationship like Lily's your best friend, and then it's like in the dialogue they don't really know each
exactly.
other. Like it sounds like they met off of Craigslist and moved in together. So
And
I'm
that's
like,
exactly why I don't care for her, because you're Amy's not even like there was no internal monologue of like, should I even tell my best friend this? Like, there was nothing.
right,
There
yeah.
was nothing.
Like it definitely feels like a relationship where they're still getting to know each other.
Right.
So this closeness of like, oh, Lily's your best friend. Like I've read someone on Tumblr made this whole like post talking about how much they love Lily, which is fine. Like if you like Lily, like I like Lily as a character too. I don't have an issue with them liking Lily. The issue that I took with the post is they were like best friends to lovers trope, and I'm like, what best friend?
No, yeah,
You
no,
mean
it's
like
roommates to
acquaintance to
lover.
lover trope?
Yeah.
Like we didn't really know her that well because they try to sell it, but then it's like just some of the dialogue, like even in this earlier scene when in chapter what was it two or three where she was playing video games, she was like, "Oh, do you always stay up this late playing video games?" I'm like, if that was your best friend, wouldn't you know
Wouldn't
their
you
pattern?
know? Yeah. Yeah.
That
You know
didn't
how
make
they could
sense.
have easily changed that? They could have been like, hey, wow, like, you're playing video games really late. You only do that when like you don't really want to talk about something, like what's going on.
Yeah,
Like, that would have
yeah,
been completely perfect, because after that she says like, oh, I'm just playing video games because like the girl that I was talking to ran back to her ex.
yeah,
And we're just left like, oh, okay. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm not buying this whole like they're best friends thing. I think they get along, but I
Right.
think they're new roommates. I
Right.
don't think new roommates are best friends. Priya, how do you feel about Priya?
Oh, she kind of a baddie. I kind of like her.
She's
I
fine.
kind of like that there's I kind of like the idea of there being quote unquote like a teenage hormonal vampire who was like able to rise to the power that she did and is now like on the council. I think it makes
Mm,
it very interesting. I think it adds diversity to the council, because obviously the members of the council and future chapters is going to be very important to the plot, because they're
yeah,
doing
and we're meeting
two.
them very slowly, it feels like.
Right, but like they are all like polar opposites from each other so far. Because we've
Mhm.
met what, 4. No, we've met 5 council members now.
Who's the 5th one?
Isn't Camilla? Isn't she one of them?
Wouldn't that be 4? Because we've met the Baron, Priya, Adrian, and Camilla.
And then
Who's the 5th one?
it is the 2 that he was having the meeting with in chapter 1.
Oh yeah, the gross one, Lester.
Yes, Lester. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless he's not a council member, I don't remember. But
I don't think we confirmed that he is, but I'll go ahead and give you the spoiler that he is. Yeah.
right. So they're all so different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of glad one of them wilding out. I kind of like her.
I'm like literally looking her up in the. Okay, yeah. Because you kept saying she was a teenager, and I was like, where the fuck did he say this? But I'm seeing it in the wiki.
Yeah, she's 150 years old, and that's like teenage to them. So he's middle age, right? Because he's 300. So
I'm so confused because I'm reading this trivia and it says if you decided to go with Adrian in book 1, chapter 2, he will mention that Priya is the youngest member of the council. She is considered a teenager of vampire years. And then as a note, it says there was an Instagram live stream with one of the writers that the Baron is actually the youngest member because he got changed in 1920 and not Priya. And they said it is later fixed if you replay chapter 2, but like it wasn't.
No, it wasn't fixed.
No.
It was still there.
No, someone who's not me, go into the Wikia and fix that because it's not true. I'm not about to do it. Someone else can do it, but I'm just saying, like, that was not fixed.
Wow, that kind of changes things now. Like the 2. Well, I mean, it makes sense.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, like this was.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense that the Baron is like the youngest because I mean, this book was not published. It was released 2016 or something. So like if he was turned in the 1920s, then he would be like what, like 90, 95,
right.
100? You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
So he's throwing temper tantrums. So he a toddler. Like,
oh my god.
He a middle schooler.
Oh my god.
You don't like my hat? I'm gonna skin you alive, bitch.
Oh my god.
For reference, that was a dialogue in the chapter.
Oh my fucking god. Before we continue with the rest of the episode, I do want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, theories, or comments that you would like to be included in a future episode, please email us at playchoicespodcast@gmail.com. Make sure to specify whether you want to be shouted out or not, otherwise all emails will be anonymous. Questions can be related to books we've recorded episodes on, books that we haven't discussed yet, or even questions that you'd like to ask us. Alternatively, you can go to our Ask box on playchoicespodcast.tumblr.com and submit a question. Just specify that it's for the podcast and we'll be sure to include it. And back to our episode. Okay, Nicole.
Who is she? Like at that point, like am I her now? Like she's just so irrelevant.
I think she's a pick-me.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, absolutely.
She's a pick-me. She's a pick-me. Like, let's just be honest about it. She's definitely a pick-me. She like, if Adrian said put your thumb up my ass and I'll suck your blood, she would do it. Let's just be honest here.
Oh gosh, she walked in like Amy was a child and interrupted mommy and daddy time.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
don't ever walk into your parents' room unannounced at midnight ever again.
That's a pick me. Like, and wasn't she the one who brought it up too? Like, you gotta debrief her. Like, damn bitch.
Yeah, like, oh my god. Yeah.
Like, you dragging it now. You so obsessed with me.
Can we also talk about how like Adrian is so bad at keeping his secret that he has to debrief
absolutely.
A new assistant every week?
Every freaking week.
Why is he so bad at this?
He do act like a middle-aged man. He messy. Like he just
he is messy. Oh my god.
You think everybody not gonna find out, but we all know.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's not very good at keeping his secret.
And he uses money to cover up his problems. Lord,
money and Jameson, basically.
Oh my god.
All right, Jax.
He's okay. You know what? Like he's fine. I just kind of want to,
I feel like if I had not said what I said, he would be like, "Fuck this man."
Yeah, no. I would be like, fuck. But what you said is very valid, right? So it's just like it makes you, look out the. I don't know what type of phrase. I'm looking at the forest for the trees now. I understand. I get it.
Okay,
You
got
know,
you.
so I'm like, a forest is beautiful, but it's nothing without its leaves. And, sometimes you gotta take a closer look. And you know what? Jax may not be as bad as I painted him out to be. You know, is he a hero? No. Is he a villain? No. But we're on the path to discovery with everything, right? So it's just like, you know, we're gonna find
Okay,
out.
Rupi
That's all I'm gonna
Kapoor.
say. We're gonna find out.
Okay, Rupi Kapoor. That's not even her name, bitch. I just had to look it up to see what her name was.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I added a kaput. It's core Ruby core.
oh, love her.
Okay, so that was all that we have for rapid impressions. Now, the last time we did Bloodbound, we didn't do a bingo. I was overwhelmed. I was going through a lot of shit at the
Mm-hmm.
time, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to put in the effort to make a bingo, y'all. I was just trying to survive. And someone hopped into my email being like, "Girl, we missed the bingo." Like someone literally came to my email and was like, "What? Where was the bingo? I was waiting for that shit." So I heard you. I heard your complaint, and I listened, and we have a bingo now.
I listened to your complaint.
I listened. We sent it to our customer service line, sent it to our HR line, and HR got back to me and shared the concern. And so the situation has been remedied, and we are ready to do bingo for this time.
Absolutely, because we take care of who? Our bodyguards, okay?
We
You
take care
guys
of our
are loved.
bodyguards and our choosers slash however you choose to identify.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think of the nicknames like pronouns. So whichever
Yes.
one you feel
Yes.
best suits you. If you would like to be a bodyguard because that's the type of person you are, be a bodyguard. If you would just simply like to be a chooser, that's fine too. We accept all kinds.
Absolutely.
Everyone. We are very tolerant community here. We accept everybody
Mm-hmm.
regardless of whether you consider yourself to be, more aggressive, like a bodyguard, or more kind of passive, like a chooser. Whichever one,
Yes.
whichever side
Yeah.
you lay. That's a great question. I should ask on social media whether people think that they're a bodyguard or a chooser.
Oh, that's cute. I love that.
So let's hop into the bingo. So full transparency, I definitely got all the prompts from TV tropes. I just Googled vampire tropes. So that's where all of this comes from. So I feel like it's a little bit, like the nanny affair. Like I kind of built the bingo based off of tropes, but obviously I kind of had some foresight into what happened because I finished the damn book. But with this bingo, it's really just purely built off of tropes that we typically see in vampire books. So I do think it's a little bit more fair in that way. And I think it's going to be interesting. So let's just go ahead and get started with the first prompt, which is that drinking blood is somewhat sexual.
Oh, wow.
hmm hmm Out the gate, out the gate, we are already here. Out the gate,
Wow.
we are already marking one because did you have the time, the opportunity to listen to that diamond scene while we were
I did. It
recording
was
before?
it was hot. It was hot. I was doing it.
Uh
Yeah. It was deaf
huh.
sex. Sexual. I mean,
I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, it was definitely sexual.
the way my brain just shut off.
You're like me when I talk about Lucifer for Romance Club, where you just go hot, huh? Uh,
Oh, literally. Ooh.
head empty, just Jack sucking my neck.
I'm doing a lot of sucking.
The next one is that vampires hate garlic.
See, hate's a strong word.
I would still mark it though.
I would still mark it too because they hate it. Like you can hate something and be like, you can hate it for the simple fact that it's just aggravating.
Well, also I feel like saying that you hate an object is different from saying you hate a person. Like I
Oh,
feel like
true,
hating a
true.
person has a different kind of connotation, but I can tell you right now, I could be like, "Oh, I hate mustard," and that just means you really don't like mustard,
Right. Yeah,
right?
that is true. That is actually true. Yeah, that's a whole fact.
So the next one is a new vampire mentally struggles with their transformation. I haven't really met
No.
any new vampires
No.
yet,
Yeah.
so TBD on that. Drinking blood helps vampires heal. Yes.
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm. This is definitely, I think, going to be our easiest bingo because they relied on a lot of
Oh yeah.
different tropes to make this function. Then you have a human wants to turn into a vampire, which I don't think that we've run into yet. I don't think we've run into a human who's asking to be a
Yeah,
vampire
no.
yet. The next prompt says a vampire just likes living forever. Have we had this conversation? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
No. The next one is a vampire who hates being a vampire. Is that Jax?
Maybe. Yeah,
I feel like it's Jax.
he has disdain for it. Yeah, absolutely.
I would say, yeah, I'm gonna mark it. Right?
Yeah, no, he
Okay.
does.
Yeah. Especially because he really emphasizes like how much like everyone who's clanless didn't want to be a vampire. Like it was
Right.
not consensual becoming vampires. Ooh, this next one. A council of vampires that makes important decisions.
Yep. Next.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. The next one is you can kill vampires with a wooden stake.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's how they kill the feral, right?
Yeah, they
They
use a
cut
tree
the
branch.
tree branch. Okay, and then there are vampire hunters, which I haven't seen any vampire hunters specifically.
Yeah, no, that wasn't talked about.
The next one is a friendly vampire who wants to live peacefully, which I don't think that we've come across that either.
Mm-mm.
I mean, the closest we can get is like Adrian. Adrian's just trying to be like, who the fuck is turning these ferals so I can go to sleep at night? The next one is a vampire owns a nightclub. Can we say the speakeasy? Is that close enough?
No, yes. First of
Yeah.
all, yes, and also, I mean, the other model, what's her name?
Priya, but do we know if she actually owned that?
Oh yeah, that's true. That could be just whoa, it had a secret damn Las Vegas themed bar.
But that also could just be a secret room that she like rents out whenever she gets
That's
it, you
true.
know?
That's true. That's valid.
Whereas we know that the Baron actually owns the Shrike, like that's his
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
Then there is the inevitable romance between a human and a vampire.
No, not really talking. I mean, like Adrian,
Not yet.
he not even really
Not
flirting
yet.
like that.
Yeah, I would say like not yet. A new vampire struggles with their bloodlust. Actually, I think we can actually say a new vampire does struggle with their
Struggle.
transformation
Yes.
because of the flashback with Adrian. Because he does both. Like he kind of goes to this crisis of being like, I don't, who the fuck, like you turn me into a monster, and then he gets really like thirsty.
And you gotta also talk about the clanless because like they struggle even now. So imagine like you becoming a vampire without having someone guide you because they don't even know that they turned you into a vampire.
Yeah, because Jax was talking about like the children, like the child
Yes.
that was there, like in the diamond scene, he was like, it's really difficult to kind of like manage her because she's like he said that he can't let her feed on a human because she doesn't know how to stop.
Right.
Like she doesn't have enough self control. Damn. Okay, so we're going back and marking those two. Amazingly, we haven't hit bingo yet, but goddamn, are we close? Turn vampires must die first before they rise again. We haven't really seen that.
Right.
A vampire despises the vampire who turned them.
Not
Hmm.
talked about. I mean,
I don't think that scene with Gaius counts. I don't think so because at the end of it, they were kind of like smiling at each other, so they don't really know their relationship with each other.
right.
Vampires dislike their fictional depictions.
Mm,
I kind of lean yes on this one because Adrian was kind of like making fun of like the Twilight
yeah, he made a
reference.
smart ass comment about that bat.
Yeah. Like he was like, "Oh, we don't turn to bats, like we don't sparkle."
Yes, 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 yes.
We're saying yes.
Yeah.
There is a vegetarian vampire who doesn't drink human blood. I don't. Mm-mm.
No. Yeah.
Vampires don't physically age. I mean, yes, that's
Yeah.
definitely a trope. My man out here looking 27 and he is 300 years old.
Right.
Vampires have no reflection in mirrors. No, we haven't seen that.
Right.
Feral vampires that act more like zombies. Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
The next one says a vampire procreation limit that explains the limited vampire population.
Yes.
Yes. Oh damn, bitch, we already got bingo.
Ah! Bingo!
Let's keep going. Sunlight is painful to vampires. Yes.
Yes.
And then the last trope on here is that someone is turned into a vampire to save their life. We
No.
haven't witnessed yet in this book. But
Mm-mm.
yeah, no, we definitely have bingo. It is the middle column where we have bingo. So I figured this one was going to be an easy one to get bingo on because there's a lot of vampire tropes, like a lot of them, and Bloodbound uses damn near all of them. So, yeah, I wasn't surprised we got bingo. But, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 spaces left. So I don't know. Maybe we can clear out the whole card. I don't know. We'll see. We'll make that our next goal. We'll make that our next goal to see if we can get. Well, let's see if we can get bingo more than once,
Yeah.
and let's see if we can clear up the whole card. Those will kind of
Yeah.
be like our objectives in the upcoming episodes. But that is the end of our episode. As a reminder, we release new episodes every Saturday at midnight Eastern Standard Time. If you want to follow us on our socials are Play Choices Podcast on Tumblr and Instagram, and at Play Choices Pod on Twitter. And then lastly, just a selfish little plug for me, because I'm a selfish little gremlin.
Period.
If you do want to follow me on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/Play Choices Podcast. I don't do choices related content because I damn near get enough of that with the podcast. But we do stream other visual novel apps. We're currently streaming Romance Club, Heaven's Secret, and The Shadows of Saint 4. So if you are a fan of those and if you would like to join us, we go live. I say we, like it's us, but it's just me. It's me and my dedicated, bodyguard/choosers
Right.
that join every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you can't make it for whatever reason, we do post all of the replays on YouTube. So we have like a full playlist on our YouTube channel of all of the replays if you'd like to watch them there. So yeah, that's really all that I have to contribute. Anything else you want to say, Lucas?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, thanks so much for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye, everyone.